All right. Hello, everybody. Today we have on Renie Gates. She's a state Senate delegate for Virginia.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. We're very happy to have you.
Yeah.
We had your mother on a few weeks ago, and she was a wonderful interview.
Yes.
So we've been really excited to talk to you.
Thank you very much for inviting me here today.
Yeah. No problem. No problem. So we always like to start out with the same basic question. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Floyd County. So we were in the Willis area, and I had the pleasures of going to Indian Valley Elementary. My mom moved down here, I want to say in 1983, give or take. And I've been here since. I've left Floyd for a little bit and moved around into the different cities. Blacksburg, Christiansburg, Radford, but then lo and behold, here I am back in Floyd County.
Yeah. Where did you go to high school?
I went to high school at Floyd County High School.
Yeah.
So did all 5 years there and graduated.
Oh, so 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So Floyd County is a very interesting one because they do not have a middle school.
Okay.
So right, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so wow, that's
So
interesting.
it's K through 7th in the elementary schools for Floyd County, and then 8th through 12th for the high school.
Okay.
So it's 8 years in elementary school in Floyd. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I didn't realize
That's
that
pretty
either.
interesting. So I guess you get to know that group of people.
You get to
Pretty
know them
well.
really well, and
Yeah.
then you go to the high school, and then you get to know the other elementary schools that merge into the high school.
Were you very academic, or were you into sports in high school?
Academic fluctuated. It went back and forth. I definitely was more into clubs like SAD. Students Against Drunk Drivers was a huge one. And then I really enjoyed our Spanish club
Okay.
that was there. So that was the high school. And then elementary, I definitely enjoyed doing the different sports in elementary, trying the soccer and the basketball and the volleyball.
I read on your website that you were in 4-H a lot and you were really involved in it.
Yes, so 4-H was definitely my high school, after school activities. I did all the positions. I did the treasurer, the secretary, the president, vice president for a horse club.
Okay.
And then we would do 4-H Congress, which was a week held at Virginia Tech, and it would be all the 4-H chapters from all over the state of Virginia.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a very nice experience, and they guided us, and we were able to demonstrate independence and elaborate on our clubs with other teens.
So you were in the Spanish club. Because Carroll County have just recently
Yeah.
started back the Spanish club.
Yeah, we started a Spanish
The
club.
Spanish Honor Society. Did y'all
Yeah.
take any trips anywhere?
We did not. So we would have like a Spanish day on the weekend, and everybody would come in, and we would have dancers or practice dances. We would also, of course, have the food that would be authentic for the area, and then usually wrap up the day by a movie.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were they in Spanish or?
Yes, they were.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so they were in Spanish, so it was quite the learning lesson to make sure that we, really understood what she taught us through the years.
Do you still speak Spanish?
Broken Spanish, yeah. I've gotten certain ones. My daughter very much enjoys Spanish, and one of my best friends through high school, his parents were deaf, so I also learned sign language.
Okay. Yeah.
So I know enough about me that I would have to probably brush up if I were to get into that culture again.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I also read on your website that after high school you went to New River Community College.
I did go to New River Community College. I was not 100% sure what I wanted to do when I grew up. And then also the financial aspect. It's a lot cheaper to go to a community college than a 4-year. And I went back and forth. I kind of felt like it would be a small school setting if I went to a community college, and I would probably have better interaction with the professors than if I went to a regular university where they would have 100 to 200 per class. Yeah. So I enjoyed my opportunity there. I loved it so much that I went for, I think, a year and a half, and then I quit going to college and I went into the workforce. And then I went back, and then I graduated with my degree in Arts and Associate Science, and then transferred into Radford University.
Okay. What did you study at Radford?
Radford University, I initially started the program that I was going to be a special ed teacher.
Okay.
I knew that's what I wanted to do, but then they had a class the second year into their program. That was a joint class with speech therapist, like speech therapy students. And the second I walked in the class, when they started telling me everything that a speech therapist could do, I was like, okay. I went to my counselor that day and I said, I quit. Transferred me completely over into the speech therapy curriculum at Radford University. And I stayed and graduated with my master's 4 years later.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So after you finished that, was there an educator during that period that really affected you?
All of them in a certain fashion. If I had to pick one or two, I would probably, honestly, I had to do a chemistry class to finish out one of the requirements. And that professor was very instrumental and encouraging and supportive as I was doing the transitioning, because, you know, it's time that you've put into being a special ed teacher, you know, but it was something that called to me and I knew it's where I wanted to be. So he encouraged and supported me through the transition into this speech therapy career. Because I hate to say, as a speech therapist previous to going to school for it, I thought it was just articulation. So he was like, oh, you know, like, go with the variety and have the flexibility in your career. And then in the actual it's communication science and disorder program is what they labeled it. I would probably say the two would be Diane Miller. She is in charge of they call it AAC, Augmentative Communication Devices. So it just helps people communicate who cannot communicate via speech. There's a variety of difference. It can go from low tech to high tech. You can use computers, you know, handheld devices. And she was very detrimental and very motivational to the students. She would create like class challenges to where who could raise the most money to provide an AAC device for somebody who was seeking it. And then there was another woman named Claire Waldron who was very essential. She saw that my writing was weak, and then she also, I did some testing and found out that, of course, which I knew, I was weak on my writing ability. However, it made me feel more confident and secure in who I was, knowing that I knew I was weak, and I could tell you guys that I was weak in writing. And it just helped me feel more comfortable knowing that I belong there and that I can overcome challenges that not everybody is fortunate or blessed with.
Yeah. What do you do now?
Right now, I am a small farm business owner. I joke I do everything with goats. I started out with meat goats, and now I'm in dairy goats. And I brush them, I love them, I talk to them, I sing to them. I milk them, I show them, and I take the milk and transfer it into different byproducts like cheese and Greek yogurt. And then my other hobby is gardening. So it's teaching individuals the safe and most effective way to preserve the food that they might be interested in retaining for their family.
Okay. So it's not related to speech therapy?
It is not related to speech therapy. Yeah, no, it completely, COVID occurred, and my mother's recovering from, she's in remission from cancer. Of course, the chemo and the radiation does damage, and her lungs are weak. And then my son is actually an asthmatic. So COVID created a lot of anxiety and a lot of mental health issues. So I decided that the farm is the safest place for the moment. So now we are looking at resuming the speech therapy career and still having this as a hobby and entertaining people. Come over and see my goats, kind of. Everybody loves goats.
Of course, yeah. So after graduating with your master's, you did go into speech therapy.
I did. So as a speech therapist, I've been blessed and fortunate. I started out working in the public school systems, and then I transferred into the hospital. I did both inpatient and outpatient. I did home health. That was the most challenging career. It made me realize that everything I knew as a speech therapist, you pretty much could throw out the window and start over a new bag, because not everybody is blessed with a good family support system, or they have the funding to be able to cover the requirements that I might suggest.
Yeah.
So it was really, really hard, and it developed me, I think, into a better speech therapist. And then I ended up in a long-term care facility, and that one is probably my most favorite career, and where I plan on retiring in 40 years, being able to say that I've been in a long-term care facility for 40 years. We did a training at a nursing home where this woman was telling us, okay, write 10 things down that are very important and detrimental to you. So people are writing, playing sports, watching TV, family, eating with friends. And then the woman said, okay, now cut that list in half. If you had to sacrifice 5 of those things, what would you get down with? And a lot of people at that point narrowed it down to religion, family, being able to go outside, reading, and a couple other different other interest. And then the woman said, okay, now it's time to get really hard. I need you to cross it down to 2. And that's really what happens when an individual leaves home and goes into a long-term care facility, is that they have to sacrifice a lot when they go into the building. So that really hit home and drove me to be the best speech therapist that I could be, just where they're giving up so much, and we're kind of the outlet and the support that they have. Yeah. So that's where I'm at.
You described at-home care being more challenging. And
it was, yeah.
I've talked to people outside of the podcast about nurses, at-home nurses, talking about similar challenges.
Yeah.
And you really described the economic challenges
Aspects
that present, maybe expensive equipment or aids. You mentioned the AACs earlier. They could be expensive, I guess.
They are. I do not have the card, but I met a wonderful woman who created a nonprofit foundation, and there are now 4, if I remember correctly, in the state of Virginia, where she actually is collecting AAC devices. So if somebody goes from a low tech to high tech, or if somebody expires, then you can donate it to this nonprofit and help offset. So now that I know that, I'm going to share that with everybody, at least in the state of Virginia. I met her probably about 3 to 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
And then another financial cost is if somebody has a stroke, or usually like a neurological disorder, they have to have thickened liquids where they can aspirate, and that is something that you have to purchase out of pocket. So then, of course, everything you drink, you can't just go get water where it's free. You have to pay for thickened water, and that's an additional expense.
I see. Were there any other challenges that presented themselves?
I would say just realizing that housing is not always as desirable as you can get. To see them struggling financially is also a big struggle. Sometimes they have limited food that they can consume, but they don't have the transportation needs. I mean, that's not related to a speech therapist, but course, just as a human being, you walk in, and you ask them what they've ate, and they'll tell you that they had a bowl of cereal. They're going to have a can of Vienna sausages and a thing of soup that evening. All very high salt intake, and in my opinion, it's not a lot of food that they had the opportunity to consume. So I know as a speech therapist, as a speech therapist and a candidate, food is a very important thing to be able to try to get out to people who may not have the transportation available to them to be able to get to the grocery store, whether they're physically limited or they don't have transportation.
Did you have an interest in politics during this time at all?
When I was a speech therapist, I've honestly just kind of followed the headline news and kept up to date on what was occurring locally, and then the key national voting. Yeah. So, but before that, no. This is definitely a new adventure for me. Yeah.
At what point did you decide to leave the at-home patient care and transfer to the long-term care?
Oh, that's a good question.
And why, I guess?
Why did I switch over?
Yeah.
trying to reflect, but I would probably say, so home health hours are very flexible. So you're working around somebody's schedule, doctor's appointments. And my kids were getting older at that point, and they were wanting to participate in soccer and gymnastics, and I needed a more set schedule so that way I knew I could get them to practice in time. So then I transferred into a long-term care facility to be able to ensure that I knew what time I was going to be able to get off to get them to their house. And then home health hours tend to be a little bit more waxing and waning. So 1 week you can work almost 40 to 60 hours. I mean, it can get really busy. And then the next week, I guess everybody is healthy and well. And then you're dropping down to 10 to 15. So honestly, the financial stability aspect as well that a long-term care facility can provide.
Were you also farming during this time?
Not as largely as I am now. So at that point, I would have had 5 goats, 2 horses, a couple chickens, and then I've always had a large garden, so I would have had the garden. So now I've kind of gone overboard, and my farm now has quadrupled. So we were literally just talking about the fact that we need to rein it back in and keep it simple. Go back to our 5-6 goats so we can give the best quality care.
So you were still working in a long-term care facility during 2020, right? When COVID first broke out.
Correct.
How long did it take you to leave that facility once COVID really hit? Did you
I
work during the March of 2020?
Yeah. So I would have stepped away probably December that year.
Okay.
Yeah.
We spoke to a CNA who was in a similar facility when COVID had hit, and she said she was working 70 hours a week, just taking care of everyone, following the extra precautions and sanitizing herself, and to make sure that she wasn't contaminating anyone else, right? Were there any extra steps that you had to take because of the virus?
So within the facility, when we walked in, we would have, of course, the routine questions. Have you been exposed, been around anybody, been out of the country? We would have our temperature checked just to make sure we didn't have a fever. I want to say initially we were tested weekly for the COVID virus, and then of course you have to do, they call it PPE, but you would have to wear the gowns and the goggles and everything if somebody had COVID. And then if we didn't have COVID, then you would wear a mask while you were present at the building. I went above and beyond just because you can be asymptomatic. So when I would go home, I would change clothes. Like I had a laundry basket. My bathroom, I have a door to where you can just walk in my bathroom from outside. So I'd have a laundry basket outside to where I would sit there and put my clothes from the day in the laundry basket and then take a shower before I would say hi to my children. Just to ensure that, I was trying to do everything that I could do before. And then, of course, washing your hands in and out. That's just a standard protocol that you make sure that you don't transfer any kind of diseases from room to room.
Did you feel like the extra PPE that you were wearing inhibited your job or your ability to perform?
So as a speech therapist and being in a long-term care facility, when you have a mask on, the regular like blue surgical mask, you can at least communicate some kind of information, but a lot of people do rely on reading your lips. And then the second you do the N95, the big white mask, you cannot really communicate across the mask. And a lot of our conversations would go to like a pen and a whiteboard, and you would write the whole speech therapy session or the ones that where they couldn't hear you, to where you could actually provide therapy.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a big adjustment.
Yeah, I bet.
So, and then the hard part for me was that my kids were younger. So, of course, when mommy comes home, the first thing they want to do is run out the door and give you a hug and tell you, hello, you made it. And that tradition had to stop and be like, guys, I love you, but let me take care of myself first. And then, once I open the bathroom door, you can come and be like, hi, mommy, I love you.
Yeah, of course. I bet that was challenging.
It was challenging, yeah.
And you saw that a lot with healthcare workers, because I remember like those plastic dividers.
Yeah.
The nurses were like sequestering themselves in their rooms, and their families would come up to the plastic like sheet
Right.
and talk to them. It was just a really weird time.
It was a weird time.
It
Yeah.
was. I think a lot of people haven't really. I mean, it was such a major event, like a year and a half, and then it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody just keeps on going on. People haven't really looked back at it historically yet, but I think in the next few decades it'll be.
People will be discussing it and
Yeah.
seeing the impacts. Yeah, we had the pleasures of going to a large conference this past weekend, and it was the same thing. I think we were in an elevator, and there was 7 or 8 of us in the elevator, and when we were talking about it, like, how weird is this that there's now 8 of us in an elevator, nobody is masked up, versus 2 years ago it would have been 2 people in the elevator and everybody's wearing masks. Here's your X's. Stay on separate sides. So we were trying to figure out how that even works, and just the difference feeling, because it used to be that people kind of didn't need to be near you, and I don't want to say they presented with potentially like an unopposed threat that you couldn't see or know about. And now that's dropped, and everybody can be friendly again, and we can interact and be social.
So you mentioned in December of 2020 you stepped back from speech therapy and you went to the farm. Were there any initial challenges that presented themselves from going from speech therapy full-time to farming full-time?
So farming has its whole level of challenges. I think that people, that whole line of walk a day in my shoes, farming is hard work. You're never caught up, ever. Never, ever, ever. And it has given me a new appreciation of how hard I work just to feed my family of 3. And then I also usually make enough to help my mom and my dad as well. So I guess you could say I'm trying to grow enough to just feed 5 people. And I can't imagine on a national level these farmers who are feeding the nation. So my heart really does go out to these local farmers who probably do work around the clock and sacrifice a lot of time for being near their family. So that would be my, I feel like I'm pretty good at managing time, but I sit there and I have a to-do list, and it just seems like I scratch off one and I add another 10 things that happen to pop up. And animals are living creatures. You wake up in the morning and, they decide that they found a tree branch that they can climb up and jump out. And so then you have 7 goats out for the day, and you're like, okay, so this was my to-do list, but now I've got to go find the tree branch that they climbed to jump out and get rid of that and fix the fence. So that would be the challenge, like the new challenges. It's just the constant to-do list that feels like it grows versus shrinks.
I read a book a few months ago, and it was the son of a farmer who was talking about how his dad, every morning without fail, would go and milk the cows and feed the cows. And he said it didn't matter what the weather was. It could be hailing, it could be a hurricane, it could be beautiful. He went and did it every single morning for 20 years.
Every day.
And I just thought that was amazing that he had that drive and the commitment to the farm and to your livestock over that long, it's really a long period of time. I mean, you've been farming for 2 years, give or take, 2 or 3 years, and full-time.
Full-time, yeah. We joke, like, milking my goats right now, every single morning I know where I'm going to be. And then our downtime is completely opposite. Like, most everybody looks forward to the summer. That's your vacation, that's your break. My break usually, and you can go beyond the duration. Most people who milk for 10 months, and they only get a 2-month window off. I preference November. So usually from November I stop milking my goats until March when they have their babies. So yeah, that dedication every day, you know where you're going to be, what you're going to be doing. Then vacationing is not a choice unless you're lucky enough to have a friend who can, like, their schedules can allow, because everybody milks at a certain time, the goats expect it. And then you can develop what they call mastitis, to where you have to treat them, and then it could potentially ruin the udder and the milk and the goat. So you really do have to stick by that schedule, like what he was talking about. And then I joke I picked the high maintenance of, in my opinion, of the livestock world. I have horses, they're laid back. I have a cow, they're laid back. My goats, every day, they need to be looked at and petted, or else they'll find something that they should not be doing. If they don't get that attention and love, they'll be like, oh, hey, we joke that they are born to die, but not really, but they seem to find something to grab your attention.
So you left the long-term care facility in December.
Right.
And I'm sure you don't plant till March, April, start planting your crops. What did you do during that intervening time between December and when you started to plant?
Honestly, I took a huge mental health break. And then my children are also homeschooled. So I just really focused on their homeschooling and decreasing the stress and the anxiety and the fear that came with the COVID at that moment. So I could just actually be at home and de-stress and not worry about, I know I'm not the person that would kill them loosely, but like if I brought COVID home and then they caught COVID and something were to occur, even though you didn't do it, you would feel responsible or obligated. So I could actually let those feelings go for 3 months and talk to a counselor. So it was a lot of stress and anxiety. So it was homeschooling and relaxing. Yeah, reading books and...
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Well, what books do you like to read? Me and Ethan are both big.
I tend to be in the sci-fi world, personally. Even though I have been reading some really good political books right now that are interesting. Somebody just recommended a book called Jesus and John Wayne. So that one I'm wanting to see because that just sounds really interesting. But sci-fi are the books that I preference. Give me Stephen King, Anne Rice, Dean Koontz are like my immediately go to, the ones that you can't put down, and then you can't sleep that night because you read them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So you just took that time to just really relax, and you hear that a lot, especially during like late 2020, early 2021, about the mental health crisis in the country. Was it 2/3 of the nation was experiencing spikes in anxiety? During that time.
I would believe it.
An incredible number of people.
It's crazy to think about just how, of course, COVID changed the world, just as operations and logistics, right? But it also changed how people see and view mental health. And I'm not sure what the effects of that will be in the next few years or even decades. Will people try to get more help, or because I know a lot of, Luke mentioned 2/3 of the country potentially experienced increases in mental health issues, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone got treated, right?
They wanted it, my biggest challenge is that while we were at the long-term care facility, you were having people who lived at home, and so like it was a husband and wife, and the husband would contract COVID, he would pass, and then here's the wife at home who can no longer take care of herself or fend, or just felt alone and isolated and afraid. So then they would come into our facility and you would hear those stories over and over again about how they lost somebody that they were married to for 40, 60 years. And the hole that it left behind them. And I had somebody, it broke my heart, but she was talking about how COVID, how 2 sisters died secondary to COVID, and she also lost her husband. And I could not imagine, I was having anxiety just over the concerns of bringing it into my house. I couldn't imagine losing 3 people in my family secondary to the disease.
And that's not that uncommon to hear about, really. Cause it's just crazy to think about.
So now my son is coming. My son definitely was afraid because he has asthma, and he knew it was a respiratory disease. So he's finally coming out of his shell and starting to talk to people again. So same thing. It impacts 2/3 of people, all ages, and so now I'm like, okay, you can talk to people, you can shake hands. It's kind of like reintegrating back into society, and we can be human again.
And they're calling those young children during that time. I'm not sure how young your son is, but kids that were younger, elementary school age, that grew up during COVID. It was a lot of really an important developmental time in their lives. And they spent 2 to 3 years just, living in a whole different world.
Yeah.
So they call them Generation COVID because they were so
Isolated
by that, and it was ingrained in their psyche at that young age.
Yeah.
So they're really excited to learn about the effects of that in the future. Kind of.
See, I know that my kids were like these little social interactive butterflies. They loved everybody. They didn't know. I mean, they were country. They didn't know a stranger. They said hello to everybody in the grocery store, or if you needed help with groceries being loaded into your car, they would offer. And now we're trying to encourage them to do that because they don't want to get near people, because that was what we were taught for 2 years. So that was a little challenging. And then, of course, we homeschool. So then, we're kind of we have homeschool co-ops and events that we participate. And I'm always monitoring that we're not like those weird homeschool kids, But I know COVID also has altered how they interact with individuals. So I've been encouraged them, please make sure that you talk to people, and, you can own that, COVID made you a little anxious about talking to people, but at least give them that, and not that you're a weird homeschool kid, please, Yeah.
Another important part of your life is your political campaign. You're running for state senate, and
Yes.
is it District 7?
Yeah, District 7 is new to this area. I would have to pull up the old map, but I definitely feel like Hillsville, Carroll County, Galax, and Grayson would definitely be new to the District 7 redistricting. Yeah, so I am learning all my counties. I've got Wytheville, Grayson, Carroll, Galax, Floyd, Franklin, City of Martinsville, and then Henry County around the city of Martinsville. So I'm very blessed where I live in Floyd on the border because it's 2 to 2.5 hours to either side of the district.
And what motivated you to start your campaign and start running?
The campaign, my mom and I were talking, and we were discussing that you did not have the option for a Republican or Democrat on the ticket, that it tends to be Republican only, and we felt like people should have the opportunity to have a choice in who they vote for. And then in addition, we were talking about things that we felt needed addressing as far as healthcare and transportation and food for people. And we decided, instead of keep talking about it, why not step up and actually make a difference and do it.
And like you mentioned, you and your mom are running together.
Yes.
And you are the first a mother-daughter pair in the United States to run together, right?
Yeah. So my mom would be Patty Questenberry, which you guys interviewed. And she's running for the House of Delegates. And we've done the internet search, and we will be the first mother-daughter combination. So that's really exciting. And my daughter, who knows if we have luck with this, which we're hoping, we could be the first mother-daughter, granddaughter combo in 8 years.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. That'd be breaking so many more records, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be fun. So then a little bit about my campaign. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, of course.
So my campaign is focused on representing rural people. We definitely feel that we need to help the local people be represented. A lot of the wealth seems like it's above Roanoke, obviously, because we're lacking in the infrastructure. Going back to COVID, the internet, schooling was challenging because not everybody is blessed enough to have a reliable internet source or broadband. So we wanted to fix that. And then healthcare, if you get on the internet and you Google life expectancies, our life expectancy for our region is a lot lower because we don't have as many specialties in our area to address our needs when you have that unique disease, or they can't just put you in a pretty little box. And then the fact that you have to drive 45 minutes to an hour to get to a hospital. And then you may even potentially have another 45 minutes to an hour to get to like a specialty hospital with a higher level of triaging. So.
And, like you said, we spoke to your mother, Miss Patty Cousinberry, a few weeks ago. And this is something that I wanted to ask her, but I didn't get a chance to.
Okay.
Is there anything in your campaign that you differ with her? Like, is there anything you don't agree with, or you have differing views on?
The biggest difference that we've kind of noticed is our career paths. My mom was in the counseling and housing development field, so she has a lot of experience in that that area. And then for me, where I went more of the medical and community service, I feel more familiar in the medical. Sorry, that's redundant. But as far as where people need assistance, the treatment, and like a mobilized healthcare unit where I've been able to see the gaps in the system. And then the food, same thing in the public school system. You'd have kids act out, and when you rein them in and say what's wrong, usually they're hungry, and you could give them a bag of chips, and then the behaviors would decrease. So that would be the two biggest things that we've noticed would be our career pathways. Give us a further knowledge and appreciation as to where we can help and fix. But of course we talk. So
of course,
yeah. So then we, she'll be like, "Did you know about that?" And I'd be like, "No, I didn't know about that." So then she brings light to my world, and then I share different stories, and we're growing and hopefully better serve the population in our area.
Can you talk about the challenges of running a campaign in a heavily red area?
Yes, it's a challenge. Everybody keeps asking, how are we going to make a difference? How are we going to pull in the votes? And basically, we're targeting people that we are this area. We've been here for probably about 30, well, she's been here longer, but 30, I'll be here for almost 40 years. And just getting to know one another and try to get the people to understand that we're here for them, and we know the challenges and the battles that locals go through. You sit there and, you want to go pick up a prescription, but you also want to eat. So we're hoping to address that demand, that we've had those fights and we understand what it's like to not have internet, or you can't call on a cell phone if you need 911 and you're in a car accident. We're still having to knock on doors to be able to call that situation in. So it's what we're going with. Any recommendations from anybody, obviously,
of course,
we will gladly take it. So we're going that we want people to vote for the best candidate.
And you mentioned that cell phones and 911. You drive 3 minutes up the road, and for a good bit, you can't get any cell service at all. It's just completely dead.
Yeah, for a good 10 minutes, just driving.
So Hillsville. You guys are right out of Hillsville. It's I did not realize it until I did a home health. Like, you go through Hillsville and downtown Main Street and you have cell service, and it's like, woohoo! Yeah. And then honestly, you go down Main Street and you're not even out of town and you do not have cell service.
Those spots.
It's gone. Yeah. So it is a big issue, and people, God bless landlines, that they're still there. And that people are nice and open their doors and allow you to call if your car breaks down, or, different scenarios. There's a dead deer on the side of the road, like
yeah, someone can get it.
Yeah.
And then broadband is similarly it's non-existent out here,
Yeah.
Because we have internet, but there's only one provider, right? And we pay $100 a month for it, and it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
The Enterprise came out, and there was a nice article in it right now talking about how the cables aren't being buried, and the service is inconsistent at best.
Yeah, at best, yes.
Yeah.
We're taking summer classes. Yeah. And my internet was really, really slow at the house. So I had to go into Crossroads Institute in Galax to do my schoolwork some days.
I would believe that.
Summer.
We're traveling to the library, because the library has a bit of a better internet connection, but it's just kind of crazy that I have to travel 20 minutes to do my schoolwork, you know?
Well, we did it in a FaceTime interview for the podcast.
Yeah.
And we had to travel to the library to get adequate video.
Yeah, I was like, you'd have to go to a reliable source to have a solid video without the glitches.
So during virtual school, that was a unique challenge.
Yes.
Oh.
Because a lot of kids couldn't get internet.
Yeah.
Really good internet, so they had to actually travel to the school parking lot or sit in the library parking lot to do their schoolwork.
And to our district's credit, they did send home like little cell service jetpacks, they called them.
But you have to have cell service.
Exactly, you have to have cell service, and that doesn't work for everyone. So it still was an imperfect solution, and it's just kind of crazy how our county and our area, because Floyd has amazing internet.
We are so blessed for our citizens. Yes.
It's amazing.
They are wonderful. The benefits of a co-op. I know that Richmond just provided a very nice grant, and Floyd is probably the lowest area that was included in that grant. So they are very knowledgeable and very, very, very solid service. So, the school conversation, I've had a lot of parents talk about during COVID and the jetpacks that they were trying to juggle how to work. You know, you had to work during the day, but then your kids needed to do the school and submit their assignments. Yeah. So they were traveling to the library or, you know, to the top of the hill where the cell service does occur. And then you have the balance of the battle of having your school books in the back seat and sitting there with your kid while they're trying to do school in the car.
Yeah.
And then try to watch the videos, and you know, then you're going to have your 6-hour day worth of school after you get home from work, and still have to manage cooking and bathing and cleaning and all the necessary just home chores.
And then a lot of parents had to use that internet availability for their work.
Yeah.
They were using that to work at home. Yeah. So they were trying to work at home and take care of the kids too, and allow them to be on the internet. And with the Wi-Fi around here, having multiple people on it, it's just
make it stop. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's I'm not sure if you're familiar with Starlink. It's a satellite-based internet provider.
Yeah.
It's ran by Elon Musk, which isn't really important, but Starlink until just a week ago was not available in this area. It was.
Is it up now?
It is available now, but it's satellite internet. You had to sign up for the service about a year ago. It's like a beta testing, I guess.
Okay.
And then they rolled it out across the country in other parts of the globe, in other parts of the world, very slowly. And Cana, which is part of our county, but it's a bit more south, got it.
It's in the Piedmont
area. Yeah, they got it, I want to say like around 6 months ago, but my area didn't get it until just last week.
Oh, wow.
So it's an option now, but it is very expensive. It requires a $500 deposit to set it up, and then it's $100 every month.
But is it smooth internet?
Well, we don't know yet.
Yeah, I was like, it's beta testing.
Yeah, it might be, but...
So...
Sorry.
So I lived in Woolwine for a while.
Okay. Yeah.
And same thing, internet is non-existent. So of course with homeschooling you do use a lot of internet to find material or videos to watch, researching which curriculum you want to give to your child. And we did the satellite internet. I forget who the provider was.
It's probably HughesNet.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, satellite, good answer. Yeah. But however, I found out that they could not give you an unlimited feature. So then, of course, same thing. You would have the blessing of like 4 gigabytes or whatever their package deal was. And then after that, it would go to like a dial-up pace to where the videos were glitchy and you might as well not even try. And so I called multiple times saying, why can't you give an unlimited feature for X amount? And they just never would commit to that agreement. So one of the reasons for moving back to Floyd, honestly, was the internet aspect. So my heart goes out to this, and it's definitely a huge thing that needs to be resolved. I saw an article, I want to say it was in Buchanan, where they were talking about how everybody's leaving these rural areas, and that they got a grant and they decided to set up internet, and then they brought people back in because they had the internet and people could work from home or design a business, and then all of a sudden they realized that their population goes up by like 2,000 people within 3 months because they had like the best internet available at that time. So I think people don't realize how detrimental. My phone died one day, and I went to the grocery store, and I was like, how do I do a shopping list? Because everything was on my phone.
It's crazy. And like you said, the data caps with HughesNet, Starlink doesn't have that. And that's great. That will give a lot of people more opportunities to have internet, but it's not a perfect solution either, because if you have trees in your front yard, or if you have, like, if you live in certain areas where planes fly, you can't have it, and it's not a good solution. We need more broadband access. The satellite's a good fix for some people, but
well, and I mean, if it's like what is it, Dish Network and DirecTV, on the rare occasion that we get snow or ice, I know that those go out, so it'd probably be the same way that you'd have internet and be out there chiseling away and hope you don't move the dish and mess up your signal.
Yeah, it's just broadband is something that's very important to me, and it's obviously important to you, and I know it matters to Luke, and I know we're not the only people in the district or in the county.
You hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
All the time, yeah.
And I know businesses will move away because they just don't have internet.
They don't have internet to be able to manage it.
Yeah.
And the other one that a lot of people have been talking to me about is youth activities. You know, what can we do to promote the youth to stay and make this area more appealing? So any input or suggestions you guys want to give, I would greatly appreciate it. I know I saw Carroll County is putting a splash pad in, so I think that will be a nice attraction.
It opened up today at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh, are they doing the grand opening?
Yeah.
Today.
Oh, I know where I'll be tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you hear that all the time. Kids that graduate from Carroll County High School, they might go to college locally, but after that, they scatter.
They leave.
Because there's just not the job opportunities here.
Yeah, and I honestly believe a big part of that is the internet. Because it just doesn't exist here.
Yeah. Oh, and a lot of, not to like generalize, but it seems like a lot of people do like the internet jobs right now, because you can stay at home. It sounds like the money is very nice and desirable. Yeah. So that, you know, everything's getting more expensive. So if you can have a good job, be at home, and work locally, that's a nice winning feature.
Yeah, and if you stay in the area, you can pay local taxes. That brings money in for the local municipalities. It's just a good all around, right?
It's a win-win-win.
Happy citizens, you have faster internet, but it just seems that governments don't want to spend the money to implement the access, and that's just incredibly frustrating. Because especially for my generation, we don't know a word without the internet. It's always been there.
Yes.
When it goes out, it's like, wow, like, you know what I mean?
You have to unplug and...
Yeah, I'll get off my soapbox here about the internet, but...
Oh, no, it's okay. Like, my children right now, they're like, Mommy, you're old. I was like, I love you guys. Because I told them that when I was 16, the internet was starting to become this big concept, because the internet didn't exist before then. It was encyclopedias and going to books and referencing. You just couldn't Google it. And now the answer to everything that you don't know is Google it. So my kids are like, well, how did you do stuff beforehand? So I took them into the library and I showed them the encyclopedia section. And I'm like, you learned really well how to alphabetize, and, you know, you'd pull out whatever you wanted to know, or you'd have to go to like the history books and pull out the information. I'm like, it was a lot more time consuming. You just didn't have the convenience of searching in that area, so they pick with me. And then same thing when I tell them no electronics or the internet, I'm like, okay, we're done with the internet for today. They're like, well, now what are we supposed to do? So a lot of their friends obviously communicate, and they're definitely into the Snapchat world and the Messenger, and I've heard that there are like now 3 more social media platforms.
Of course, there. New ones every day. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, guys. So that kind of goes into the whole internet safety aspect with them, just being aware and keep all your location IDs off to keep them safe.
And that's scary, especially I don't have Snapchat, but most people do. And they keep their locations on all the time. And you can see where everybody's at. Because I was looking at, I don't forget who it was, but they put up their Snapchat, and there's this map of everybody and their names and where they were and where they were moving. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's just, you're begging for something to happen.
I was like, it's somebody who's tech savvy, who can slide into the system. You know where everybody is and when they're getting there. I just found out about the wonderful world of Google Timelines. It's the same thing that they tell you where you've been, how many miles you've drove.
Yeah, that doesn't sit well with me.
I'm like, okay, that's a different world.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, so anyhow, totally we're sidelining.
Yeah.
So campaigning wise, let's see. Let's see. So we did the internet. There still are dirt roads. That is a very interesting topic when I talk to people about the dirt roads. I kind of would feel that you would, living on a dirt road before, they just surfaced stars, that you would want to think that everybody would want to have a paved road. It's a 50-50. There are some people who find the dirt road to be very desirable, and then there are other individuals who would want to see a better infrastructure and not have the potholes or have it washed out when it rains. So I think that would be talk to the local VDOTs and find out, okay, what areas are you having to treat the most just on a financial level? Like, okay, who are you hauling the most gravel to fill the potholes when we have a thunderstorm? And then I'm going to totally slide. So thunderstorms goes to climate crisis,
yes.
In my mind. And then on a farmer level, it's huge. I know this year everybody is discussing how gardening is not what it's been previously. It was very cold. Like I had greens, but like your lettuce and your spinach and everything, your peas, that I literally was able to grow until June. And that's normally something that you see kind of phasing out by May, but it was just so cold that they were able to live so much longer. And everybody keeps putting up like our blueberries in or peaches because they're kind of getting late in the season when other things really should be produce, like in current produce. I know I'm trying to do green beans right now, and I am probably on my 4th planting because it was too cold and the seeds wouldn't germinate. Then it was too wet, and then the beans rotted, and then it was too hot and they wouldn't grow. So I'm hoping that the 4th time is the charm, so I can have green beans. But it is very huge. I just found out about a newsletter, the wrap up, that was discussing how relevant our environment is to the area, to us. I mean, we have one world, and we need to make sure we make the best of it.
It's kind of hard to deny it the past few weeks when the water in Florida is 101 degrees. It's hotter than a hot tub. That's pretty in your face.
It's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, even for you guys, what was it? The last I saw, there was 6 earthquakes.
Yeah.
Here?
Yeah, there was a few. I was out of town, but I remember talking to people, and they were just like, yeah, we had another earthquake this morning. It wasn't that bad.
There's a fault line that runs up from Sparta up through Hillsville.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's become more active in the past few years.
Yeah, so you see that, and then you've got your polar caps that are melting.
Yeah.
And then they were, totally random, but I saw an article where in Florida there are drug lords that are dropping their drugs into the water, and the sharks and the fish are now consuming it, whether the bags are breaking. So then that's polluting your water on a different level. And then it is getting better, but then Martinsville was talking about how Danville had water that wasn't even drinkable. So we definitely need to be aware of our environment. And then I have lost count for Nevada with, I think they're like day 18 for being over 100 degrees. So it's definitely hot. And then you get in the winters where you see, what was it, New York City, where they had 24 feet of snow. I think it was like 24 or 48. Yeah. I would have to Google that one to get an accurate.
The videos.
New York got 7 feet of snow in like a 36-hour period. It was something insane. It was like that.
Yeah.
And people were like snowboarding down the streets because
you couldn't drive a vehicle.
It's wild, and like you said, out in like Arizona and Nevada, the daytime highs are incredibly high. But really what's important is also the nighttime lows. It wasn't getting below 90 degrees at night. And that's what really hurts people.
Yeah. And then you go with...
There's no relief.
You have to take care of people and make sure they stay hydrated and
increased electricity costs too because air conditioning and.
Well, they said in Phoenix, Arizona, especially among the older population, if they tripped on the sidewalk, they said they're seeing second and third degree burns from just people falling on the sidewalk. It's so hot.
Oh, I saw a flyer where they're saying that even at 79 degrees, that the pavement, like what you're saying, is already at like 100 degrees. So these 112, 114 degree days, you're probably at 200-300 degrees.
Yeah, and a woman cooked I think she fried an egg or cooked a pizza or something in her mailbox. Or something. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so there's pluses. You can cook food outside if you're willing to go out there for that long.
Yeah. I don't think I would consider that a plus, though.
No, not really. Yeah.
But, yeah.
No, it's something that I definitely am worried about, and we need to try to figure out the best way to try to slow it down. And it's going to take a collaboration of everybody and carpooling where you can and, make dedicated trips versus, I need waffles and like a quick run to a local food store. It's going to have to be, okay, the waffles are not worth it. I'll make a piece of toast for the day and, make dedicated runs. And then that would tie back into the internet that if you wouldn't have to drive to Carroll County to the library if you had a reliable internet, which would decrease your driving.
Yeah, public transportation too, like a lot more available transportation and higher capacity transportation would help that a lot because I'm not sure how it is in Floyd, but in Carroll we have none.
There's no transportation, yeah.
No.
I feel so. My district, I feel very blessed that most everywhere has some form of a community college or an extension satellite. So that part is nice. But trying to get people to that location, there's not. Very
challenging.
Yeah, there's not transportation available on a mass transit level.
And even if you could bicycle to places, even if it's close enough, the roads just.
You can't do it here.
Yeah, you can't.
58, you get hit by a car.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Sidewalks are not present.
Yeah. The only sidewalks I know of in Hillsville are on Main Street. And that's it.
I think it goes up to the Marathon Station. And it runs up.
Yes, that's true.
At the end of 58.
Yeah.
It's West Stewart Drive, run to the VFW and up to Main Street.
Yeah.
And then just down that strip, and that's it.
That's all inside corporate limits. Outside of that, and even inside the corporate limits, it's just non-existent.
Right. And then you've got to watch how you even walk on the sidewalks.
Yeah, because turning cars, it's just a mess, We
run, and how many times have we had close calls with the cars?
Yeah.
All the time.
So are you on a cross country?
Yes, cross country.
Okay.
Yeah, and we run through town and everything, and sometimes even on the sidewalk, it's kind of
sketchy.
You're wondering how close they're going to get to you.
Yeah.
And much less when we run on the back roads and stuff. There's been times we've had to jump in the bushes to avoid getting hit by a truck. But
we're definitely very agile when it comes to avoiding cars, and whenever we hear them, we'll call them out and let everyone know that there's a car somewhere. Just pay attention.
But people around here aren't used to pedestrians, really. So they're not used to people running on the side of the roads, because sometimes, we're the only people out running or walking.
Yeah.
I've got, similar. We ride horses, and it's the same thing. We can be in, hunting, camouflage, not camouflage, the other way, fluorescent, yellows and wear vests so you're visible. But it's the same thing, the right curve, they can't see you. I know that I heard somebody just rear-ended a wagon that, they were driving the horse and riding the wagon, just enjoying themselves, and somebody smashed into the back of them. So it's definitely a concern, and people need to be aware. I don't know if we could do increased signage.
That one's a tough one to solve. I'm not sure. The sidewalks one is basic enough, but horses and buggies, I'm not sure how you would go about making those more safe for everyone.
At least make dedicated roads, kind of.
Yeah.
We have a new Amish community out towards Meadow Sedan.
You do.
And they have horse and buggy signs.
Yeah, they do.
Out that way.
That is true. And I've seen horse and buggies out there on 58 just going along, and it's kind of scary because a lot of people just don't slow down.
No. Yeah, I've joked, it's a fine line, and I'm sure it's the same way for you guys when you're running, that you want people to go by you at a reasonable speed, but you don't want them flying, but then you don't want them creeping, because then you're kind of like, why are you going so slow? Yeah. So just a sensible, be aware and respectful.
Most of the time
Yeah, and some people don't even like move over.
Nah.
Yeah, like I've had several like almost hit by mirrors incidents.
So advocate for sidewalks for cross country.
Yeah.
Got it.
And actually, school policy dictates that we are not allowed to run anywhere that there is not a sidewalk. But I think we all kind of forgot about that.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
We're running 6-7 miles a day from end of July till November. And if you keep on running around that school, it's going to get old fast. So we like to
explore a little
bit. And go different places. Because we'll run out to the dump or out into the county and stuff.
This is somewhat related, but our school funding got cut by $800,000 this year. Mm-hmm. And we've had to cut a lot of programs and activities and things.
It's like FBLA.
Yeah.
We still on trips up to... Carroll County doesn't take many trips anywhere.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Any field trip. But we get to go to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
once a year for FBLA. And the county's not paying for it anymore.
Yeah.
So we don't go on any trips.
To be fair, they didn't pay for it to begin with, but they used to pay for our teachers' rooms and for our teachers' foods. But they've decided, because of the budget cuts, and this is understandable, that they're not going to pay for the teachers' rooms.
I think those who made it to state got paid for it, correct?
Yeah, but that was only because of the funding that we did as a club.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That is, So the Cardinal News put out a wonderful article as far as how to help rural schools. And I will definitely not be reinventing the wheel and go through there because the Virginia Education Association sent an email saying that the average teacher salary should be $62,000. The teachers here are not even seeing anywhere remotely to 62. Yeah. So increasing teacher pay is high, and then education. If we're not putting money into education, then how are you going to get a better, stronger generation to continue the United States?
Yeah.
So that is huge. To me, that's a 101. You've got to make sure that the kids are educated, safe, and that they have the experiences on both an educational and extracurricular level to be able to go to Washington, D.C.
And there's a lot of local politics and allocations of money that affected that decision.
Yeah, of course.
But it's going to affect the school a lot this year.
Yeah, and for example, there's a magnet school in Dublin now. It's called the Southwest Virginia Governor's School, and that provides an opportunity for gifted students to receive a college education completely for free. It's very high-level academics.
And the county would provide for...
Yeah, the county used to provide it for free.
Okay,
Transportation.
Transportation,
tuition, everything. But with the budget cuts, they're no longer able to afford it. So that program's been cut.
Oh.
Yeah.
And originally they weren't going to allow any kids from Carroll to go back, but now they can go, but they have to pay $3,000 a year.
Yeah.
And a lot of families here cannot afford it.
I was like, you can't afford
it's
that.
It's just craziness.
So the kids are smart. They're just as smart as any other kids, but they don't have the same opportunities to go to those places as kids on the East Coast or Nova would have.
And I was like, you've got, what is it, probably like 40 minutes to get to Dublin?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'd have to drive 40 minutes in addition just to have your school.
Exactly.
And have more opportunities provided.
To me, it's just a no-brainer to fund your schools because if you better educate your students, they'll do greater things and they can bring back tax money for you in the future.
But we are building a gym.
Yeah.
In Carroll County. So we have a new gym, but we're not letting our kids go to the governor's school.
To be fair, the gym money came from a separate grant that was specifically for capital improvement.
Okay.
So that money could only be used for building new areas of the school.
That particular area.
Yeah.
So are they going to use the old gym in another fashion?
Yeah, everything's being used. And to be fair, we did need the gym, but a lot of people have been slightly upset that, we have money for a gym, but not for students, when that's not the case. That money had to be used.
In that specific revenue
area. But both gyms will be utilized, and one of the biggest concerns was we didn't have enough gyms for our basketball and volleyball teams. One team would have the gym at the high school, and then another team, like the JV team, would have to go to an elementary school. But now,
be able to practice.
Yeah, exactly. But now, one team will be in one gym and one team will be in the other, and it makes sense.
So that does make sense.
Yeah.
And there's some building of classrooms too at that.
Yeah, they're building new classrooms and
project,
bathrooms and an extension of the building. I'm not sure if state senators and state delegates are in positions that they can direct funds to local counties, but if they are, that'd be great to see having more funding to the schools.
Yeah. So the one thing we found out, of course, we're in it to win it. However, there's a gentleman named Sam Razul in Roanoke, and he teaches classes where local individuals can actually do grant writing. And so my mom and I both know that we'll be attending and sit there and create our own legislation to be able to submit to the General Assembly one way or the other. We're either going to be there as a senator in a House of Delegates, or we will be a local person concerned in submitting legislation on behalf of the people in the area. So that is a huge thing to increase public education.
So where is this class?
So the gentleman's name is Sam Razul, and then he does it in Roanoke.
Okay. And
so it's
are they free to attend?
I would have to double check, but he Sam is amazing. If you've not had the opportunity, he definitely is a gentleman who's about helping the local people. So he helps local individuals, and he helps candidates who also want to progress their career and be, just develop yourself. But I would hate to speak out of turn, but if not, I'm sure that he can accommodate. So I would think so.
Okay.
I mean, he's really amazing. Reach out.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you can send grants or legislation into the General Assembly too. And then you can get people. I found out that there's individuals that you can contact and email. Like if you happen to notice that they tend to vote for public education, then you can email those senators or House of Delegates and say, hey, I just wrote this legislation piece. Please be aware of it. And then they'll usually try to help promote it to get through the General Assembly.
Well, I didn't know that was even an option.
Well, I didn't know either, so that's why I was like, one way or the other. Like if where we are in red, where we're in it to win it, you can always hope. But we definitely know that no matter what, we're going to be putting stuff into the General Assembly to help local people and advocate, and definitely find advocating groups to help promote public school, internet. It's huge.
As we're wrapping up, are there any topics that we haven't discussed yet?
I could do this all day long. Come back, round 2. I would, for me, just on a candidate level, I would say that we need to hang on to hope, and we need to be compassionate with people locally. I think it's easy to get caught up in media and want to believe it is the truth in the word, and not like individuals. And I think we just need to be compassionate, and we need to care. I've been joking with everybody, we're in Virginia, and Virginia is supposed to be the state for lovers. So we need to love thy neighbor and just really embrace one another and get us through these hard times. It's going to take the community to make sure that we can all get on the other side, where it's just financially getting harder. It's the only way we're going to be able to do it and do it successfully. No, I will stop there.
Okay. So as we're wrapping up, we have a set of questions that we ask every candidate.
Oh boy.
And I'll go first.
Surprise.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for younger people wanting to explore a career path in speech therapy or farming?
So in farming, I'll take that one first.
Okay.
Farming, right now, farmers tend to be an older population, and they're creating a lot of grants and a lot of education for younger individuals to be able to pursue whichever farming area that you're interested, whether it's crop production, animals, organic. So I would definitely recommend researching the grants that are available to you and utilizing them. As a speech therapist, definitely shadowing, so that way you can find out if it is for you. And then I would recommend letting everybody know that speech therapy can be long-term care. It can be hospital. It can be a neonate unit. You can work on accent modification. So just be more of letting everybody know that there's a great diversity within a speech therapist career. And start young and have fun with it and find your niche that calls to you.
And this next question runs along the same vein as Ethan's question.
Okay.
What is your advice for younger adults just making their way in the world? They don't really know what they want to do, but they're just starting out. So for me, I had no clue what I wanted to do. I told everybody that I had the Peter Pan complex. I never wanted to grow up. So for career-wise, I went everywhere from that I worked at Cracker Barrel to I wanted to be a paramedic. There for a little while, I wanted to be an accountant. So I would just say that go where your heart would take you, and then make sure that you love your job, because why would you want to do a job that every day you have to groan and moan to go into work? And probably that feeling would overflow onto individuals that you would be contacting. So make sure that you love what you do. And then on an academic level, in college, if you're not sure what you want to do, they have a test that you can take. It's like 100 questions, and then it kind of gives you an idea of a field choice that you might best be suited. Granted, I took the test and they told me I needed to be a forestry agent, so which kind of sounded fun, but then I was like, wait a minute, that's outside all day long. And on a day like today, I would definitely want air conditioning.
We have a final question.
Yeah, this last question, we ask all of our interviewees this question.
Okay.
And it can be seen as cliche, but we always get really good answers to it.
Oh boy. Da, 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 da.
And that is, what is the meaning of life to you?
Personally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What is the meaning of life to me? Wow. Okay, you got me speechless on that one.
Yeah.
That's a really big question. It's kind of like, which avenue do you want to go? The meaning of life. For me, I like to hang on to the thought that life is something very valuable, and you should cherish every moment that you have. You live it once, and you need to embrace it. Would probably be my answer. I've seen how fast life can be taken away from you on the rescue side, and that statement where you should live every day like you're dying would probably be where I would go with the meaning of life, is that you should just value it and appreciate it, and just be in the current moment and let the small stuff go. So that's I'm going to be thinking about that one all day.
Yeah, that's the point.
Wow, thank you for that.
Yeah,
So I will reflect and make sure that I am reflecting the meaning of my life appropriately.
Yeah, great. That was amazing.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Pleasure.